Use my handy dandy pointer. It's not the 23rd. We're not in Erzurum. What's what? No, it's Ege, sorry. No, come on. I don't do things for others' universities, just for you.
Yes. Yeah. Something unique.
Yeah. Very unique. It's unique every time I do it, okay? All right. Let me just do a little. All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Okay. Good afternoon. Yeah. I hope everyone's doing well. And I would like you just to start by just talking to your neighbor about anything, any issues or problems or, in your personal life and work, let's focus on personal life things, But just anything that's going on in your life that you'd like to share with your neighbor, go ahead, talk about it. And I'm going to be recording today, so this is just for me, so I can share with everybody else. So if you won't be in the camera, don't worry. My microphone doesn't pick up much of you, so it's just mainly me. Yeah. I ignore you all the time. No, I'm just kidding. I ignore cameras. I'm used to it now. But yeah, just talk to each other. I'm gonna pass out a piece of paper. If you want to use it you can use your notebooks if you'd like. If you have a notebook, great. I'm gonna let you use that. You can use this for writing. All right. Just wrap it up. You guys can join me when I do the. It's a nice way to. It's an easy way to quiet down the class without raising your voice, and it's a beautiful sound when everybody starts doing. Anybody want to share anything that you learned from your partner?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
She started sewing.
Oh, nice.
Doing her own dresses and.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
Lovely, creative. When did you start?
2 years ago.
Okay. And what have you? Is that something that you've made?
No,
No.
not this
Okay.
one, but I have some
Okay.
dress before, and I saw also some, cushion,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
I have something to share about her.
Yeah.
Her daughter Ella is a surfer.
Oh, cool.
Has been a surfer for a long time actually, and she's
Wow.
she races.
Yes, she has
She has a
races.
race, and she's in Alachata now.
A competition.
Yes, yes.
There's
Race.
waves. There's enough waves in Alachata to.
Waiting for the wind. They are waiting for the wind.
Okay.
Yes, waiting for the wind.
I've done.
I'm praying for my daughter.
Okay. Well, we'll all pray for your daughter to win this competition. I love surfing. I mean, it's.
Windsurfing.
Oh, windsurfing.
Yeah,
Windsurfing.
It's not
Okay.
wave surfing.
Okay.
Windsurfing.
I was wondering how you could do that. Yeah. Not enough waves in the sea. Okay.
And my partner, she's a star.
She's a star.
She is.
She's a star. Let's applaud our stars.
And she goes to chorus,
Yes.
and she's a member of chorus.
You sing.
Yes,
Okay.
she likes singing.
It's a great way to
And she shares
relax.
sometimes with us, and we feel very happy.
Oh, cool.
In the room.
In the room, yes.
I think, yeah. I mean, I love singing in the classroom. I think that when we talk about breath and like people don't breathe enough, I think singing is probably one of the best ways to like de-stress. And if you've ever like just started singing all of a sudden, I love singing. It just relaxes you because we're using our breath, you know?
How to learn
Yeah,
breath.
right. And you have to use the diaphragm. You have to use your whole body to sing. You know? Great.
Practicing the diaphragm
Yeah.
exercises.
I know I'm so
How
bad
to
at that.
let in and how to let out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I'd love to hear you singing one day.
Yeah.
What about over here? Anything you guys want to share, or you don't have to?
Yes.
She started cooking.
Started
really
cooking?
interesting recipes.
Oh, nice.
For example, she really uses some old mixtures to cook in the kitchen. That's what you said at least, right?
Nice. Wonderful.
What about you?
Old like.
I love cooking.
Healthy nothing like that. We are just kidding. Generally, we are doing well.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for coming. Today's presentation, we're going to be talking about socio-emotional learning, about writing practices, kind of combining these things together. I'm going to talk about my experience in the classroom, and I'm going to share some recent things based on these writing activities that have happened, that I've heard back from my students. And this is all from this book, Chatter. It's a book about, does anybody know what chatter is?
Chatter, someone who talks.
Okay, so that's one, a person that does it. What about just chatter as a thing?
Chatterbox.
If
Chatterbox?
talks too much, we call her chatterbox.
A chatterbox. Okay, and chatter could be another word for just kind of like lots of talking, right? The chatter, and it could be something when we talk about it. We'll talk about it in our head.
Yeah, inner talk.
Yeah, inner voice, our inner talk, right? But yeah, in my experience, I've used these writing activities in my class. I just learned them from something. I was doing journals in Ethiopia with my high school students as a writing practice. And you start to ask them questions, and you start to realize, I started to realize that they were telling me very personal things, you know. It takes trust, it takes time to build these things. But I noticed that they were starting to share things that were very personal and very traumatic, you know, like things. And by asking good questions, I was able to do these things. Yeah, and I realized that in the writing practices I did with my students, this book kind of put the science, the theory, in saying why this is actually useful. I just did it by accident, you know, and I stumbled upon this book. Check it out if you can find it. It's a great read, and it's a great way to kind of focus on our own inner chatter, because I don't think anybody doesn't have an inner voice, right? It's actually a disease. There's a neurological disease where you don't talk to yourself in your head. And only a few people have this, right? But it also limits you. And we'll talk about all of that. So I had you guys talking about, you know, each other and about good things. I want you to think about a problem, okay, that you currently are experiencing, something in your personal life or in school or something. And I want you to write about it. Write it down on this piece of paper I gave you. And just write a short paragraph, okay? Yeah, and reflect on on how this problem makes you feel. So metacognition, how does writing about it make you feel? So write about an issue. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, or let's go quick, 3 minutes or so. It doesn't have to be an essay, just something about something you're experiencing. You're not going to share it with anybody. All of your writing today is going to be your own personal, private writing. And it's good if you're struggling to find a problem to write about, which is great. That's a great. That's a great problem. So. That's a great problem to have.
Been trying to choose which problem.
Yeah. Well, choose the most immediate one, the most recent one. Don't go too far back. Just kind of do the most recent one, if that helps. Need more paper.
Just a problem.
Just a problem. Something recent, something affecting you. And if you're finished writing, just read it and reflect on how that makes you feel when you read it. We just got like 10 more seconds, so just kind of wrap it up. I don't want to stop your flow of thinking, though. It's not a test, sorry. It makes it feel like a test. Huh? So if you're finished or finishing up, just reread it and just kind of reflect on how it makes you feel to read about your problem. And just hold that. Okay, and I'm going to move on. So if you're still writing, you can continue to write. A lot of us, it's hard to do a writing activities because we all write at different paces and we all have, and which is hard to do writing activities in the classroom sometimes, right? So what is introspection? Okay. Introspection simply means actively paying attention to one's own thoughts and feelings, right? Introspection, is that a positive thing? Yeah, that's a positive thing. It allows us to imagine, remember, reflect in order to problem solve, innovate, and create, right? This is kind of the whole human evolution, that we're able to think about the past, think about the future, reflect on these things, right? So this is a good thing, introspection, right? We want our students to be more introspective. We want our partners to be more introspective. We want everybody in this world to be a little bit more introspective, okay? And the benefits, problem solving, decision making go up, goal setting and motivation increase. We have skills development. If you're actually doing a hobby or something, right, you need introspection in order to improve, right? You're giving yourself feedback. Focus and concentration increase. Emotional regulation, we're able to think about our feelings and kind of figure out how to deal with those things. And then, coping with challenges and building resiliency. And this is what we're really focusing on today, is resiliency, which to me is the whole Batman quote, is Bruce, why do we fall down? in order to learn how to get up again, you know. So that's Batman. But chatter, okay? New research has demonstrated that when we experience distress, engaging in introspection often does significantly more harm, right? So when we are stressed, when we have like, you know, these worries, that thinking about it, it does more harm to you, okay? And we'll talk about why. So this is when introspection becomes chatter, okay? And this is what the book considers to be that negative self-thoughts and emotions. So, you know, we get into this loop, right? We relive moments. We think about them over and over again. What could we have done differently? What could we have said differently, you know? I don't know if you've ever done the, I should have said that. I should have did this, you know? The should have. Yeah, overthinking. So yeah, and that's our inner voice, right? The inner voice wants our attention when we are stressed, okay? I think about this inner voice as the noisy roommate, okay? That person living in your brain that's like, hey, Bob, you know, let's eat. You know, have you done the laundry yet? Are you going to do this tomorrow? You know, did you think about classes? What about the student? What about that, you know, thing that's happening in your life, right? I call it the noisy roommate. That's from the book Untethered Soul. That's what he calls it. Noisy and naughty, right?
But the one we can't get rid of.
We can't get rid of him, but we can actually quiet him, right? I mean, our roommate, we can close the door on our roommate sometimes. We can put up our boundaries, right? We can't get rid of him. He lives with us, or you know, she lives with us. But we can close the door just enough, you know. But we also need their advice, right? Sometimes that introspection actually is very helpful for us. So we talk to ourselves at the rate of around 4,000 words per minute out loud. And they say that's like, I think 30 of the Gettysburg Address, Lincoln's speech, 30 times in our head in 1 minute. So imagine how fast you can talk to yourself, right? That's why it's harder to write than it is to just think your thoughts, right? So yeah, the negative effects of chatter, stress and anxiety, okay? Depression and low mood, impact on decision making. You know, when you're stressed, don't make big decisions. Relationship strains, right? That whole like complaining to your partner and they're just like, oh gosh, you know. Everybody's empathetic to a point, right? Impaired cognitive functions, we just don't think clearly. Physical health consequences, sleep disturbances, and reduced resiliency, right? Means that we just don't want to try anymore. We experience it, we want to give up. And these are basically the opposite, right, of introspection. You know, when we're thinking about these things, we make better decisions. When we're in negative inner voice with chatter, everything kind of flips, right? So all of those positives of thinking just disappear. All right, so what can we do to limit our chatter? Okay, and we're going to talk about some writing strategies to control chatter. And this is, I want you to be, the audience today, you guys are human beings. That's it. You're not teachers. You're not students. But I want you to imagine how you could use these in the classroom. I want you to imagine how a student might use these to improve their writing skills. And I'm going to talk about all of those different benefits. The first one is called use distance self-talk. So distance self-talk. And I have some quotes from the book. They're a little long. But when our chatter is buzzing, it drains us of the neural resources we need to focus, get distance and regain control of our inner voice. Yet distance self-talk sidesteps this conundrum, this problem. It is high on results and low on effort. Okay? So it takes really no effort. A lot of the things that we have to do require willpower. And that requires a lot of cognitive effort, right? So they're hard to do. Anything that requires willpower is hard, okay? This is pretty easy, okay? So introspection in the first person. Did everybody write in the first person when you wrote about your issue? Yeah. Okay, and how did that make you feel? Did it make you feel bad again? Did it make you trigger about it? Okay.
Be aware of it again.
You were aware of it again? Okay. For some people, when they write in the first person, it actually makes them feel like it re-traumatizes them, right? So
Empathetic to myself.
you just felt empathetic to yourself. Okay. Good. A lot of times when we think in the first person, I did this, you know, we did this, I did this, it kind of starts our fight or flight mechanism, okay? It releases these stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, okay? So if you've ever like relived the problem in your head, okay, you might feel agitated, you might feel upset, right? And this re-traumatization can occur, you know. So victims of assault, when they're interviewed by the police, they usually have these like, you know, re-traumatization things, especially like after the earthquake. Talking to students about the earthquake kind of made them, you know, very emotional, right? Because they were talking from their own perspective. They were reliving these moments.
It's not recommended, right?
It's not recommended, yeah. But what we want to do is zoom out, okay? We want to see the big picture. You want to be the fly on the wall. If anybody's ever done like body scanning meditation, is anybody? That's when you actually are supposed to look at yourself from a different perspective and scan your body. And they do that on purpose, right? The whole thing is don't be inside your body when you're trying to heal your body. Is, you know, close your eyes, imagine yourself laying on the ground and then scan through your body. There's a reason why they do that, and it's to distance yourself from yourself, okay? And it leads to shortened durations of negative feelings. When we do this distancing, we have the negative feeling again, but it disappears quickly. And this is what brain scans and the research have shown. And it increases our self-compassion. So you were talking about this empathy for yourself. Writing, doing things in the third person can help with this. So second or third person, we're going to focus on the third person, like using your name. And I have two examples. So Malala and LeBron James. We know what happened to Malala. Let's watch a video. And she used this thing. A lot of people, a lot of psychologists, they look at this interview and they see that there was a 14-year-old girl that used this distant self-talk, right? She talked about herself. She motivated herself by saying, Malala, you know, if the Taliban comes for you, what will you do, right? And it shifted her perspective, right? And she, you know, she switched back to the I would do this, right? It's almost like an interview, like, Malala, what would you do if the Taliban came for you? You know, and you're like, I don't, right? A 14-year-old girl was able to kind of use these things, you know. I don't think she knew what she was doing. She just had this ability, you know. Maybe she learned it from somebody or something, but she used her name in order to talk to herself, right, to motivate herself. This one's LeBron James.
In Cleveland now, there were places where they were burning your jersey. I don't know if this comes in theirs. We got some.
That's his jersey being burned.
Now, you surprised by this? Or just as you look, if you can see that image, how do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, I can't get involved in that. You know, one thing that I did want to do is make an emotional decision, and I wanted to do what was best, you know, for LeBron James and what LeBron James is going to do to make him happy.
Okay, so he, you know, he was being traded from Cleveland, where he, you know, grew up. They moved him to, you know, he moved to another team. Everybody hated him in the city. They burned his jersey, you know, and he used this strategy. We used to think that he was just arrogant, actually, you know. LeBron James, you know, I'm LeBron. LeBron James does what LeBron James wants to do, you know. But it was actually his strategy of actually being able to calm himself down and not focus on this problem and focus on basketball, right? So he said, what is LeBron James going to do for LeBron James, right? In an interview, okay. So this is called distant self-talk. I want you to go back to your writing, and you can cheat. You can just cross out things and change things. I want you to rewrite your paragraph, change the first person, okay, to your name, okay. So cross out any I's and we's or whatever. You don't have to rewrite it. Change the verbs as well, right? Okay. So go back, change it to your name. You can use pronouns.
It's a good exercise for present.
Isn't it? Right. And this is that weird, what do we call it? I mean, this is like the weird verb for me. I don't understand why we have to have an S on third person, singular. It makes no sense to me. It doesn't change the meaning, right? It's just something that we have to do to sound more native-like or something. Bless you. Bless you. Okay. So yeah, just go through, make sure that all the grammar is correct, that you put the S's or whatever needs to go on your verb, and then reread it. Okay, so reread it again. And does it feel different to you? Does it feel more distance now? You were saying that are you empathizing with that person more? Yeah.
And now he became one of many other people.
Right.
That's not the only one.
Right. So the other one, if you use the you, if you change the pronouns to you, it's actually called the universal self, or the universal. We're normalizing something, right? This person becomes somebody, a stranger. We're actually kinder to strangers than we are to ourselves, right? And we're much kinder to strangers than our future selves, okay? Lots of research on this. Okay, so the benefits of doing this, you're going to increase your self-compassion, right? You're distancing yourself. We are actually always more compassionate to strangers than we are to ourselves, right? It does not require much effort, okay? Just to change the pronoun, to change the subject to the third person to your name. I think reading your own name sometimes makes you feel kind of like that's a person. That person's important, Academically, okay, you're right. Students become, more familiar with third person pronouns, right? Students can easily write in the I, right? It's easy for them. And I think it's moving towards academic English. Once we start using third person plural especially, change it to people go through this problem, right? We're moving our students towards academic English, which is, I think a really difficult thing for students to do is to start generalizing for other people, right? Young people kind of are hyper-focused on themselves at times, right? When we're stressed, we're hyper-focused on ourselves as well, right? So kind of moving towards this, we can use this in the classroom to help our students with these, I think, difficult skills that they need to practice more. All right? And generalizing for different groups of people as well. So not just you, right? That's something I find really difficult to teach my students is, hey, we need to use the third person plural. That's it, We're using that for writing. So cool. Hopefully that helped you. Next thing is reframe your challenges, your experiences as challenges, right? So I always like to ask my students what was their biggest challenge and what was the lesson that they learned. That's like one of the journal writing that I let my students do. Simply asking people to write about their most upsetting negative experiences for 15 to 20 minutes to create a narrative about what happened, if you will, leads them to feel better, visit the doctor less, and have healthier immune function. So students that journal, people that journal, experience less of these things. We all know this. I don't do it, I don't do it enough, right? Focusing on problems you believe it to be a threat, okay? And the threat states restricts blood flow. When we're stressed, we don't move, right? Like all of the cardiovascular issues happen, reduces our motivation and resiliency. And this is like something from the animal kingdom, right? Our stress response is to make us escape from lions and tigers. We don't have those anymore. So our examinations, all of those things become our new lions and things like that, right? So when we reframe problems as challenges, we focus on what you learned from your problem. Your challenge state, this is what it's called, better blood flow and relaxation. This is kind of like an athlete who's able to, under high stress conditions, still focus, still be able to think about what's going on, despite the crowd, despite the heat, despite hunger and whatever else. You can also do the following, write from the perspective of a superhero, okay, or a role model, I think I want to do this semester is have my students give themselves advice from the perspective of Ataturk. What would Ataturk say to you to help you solve your problem, And you can imagine that your students would give themselves better advice than they could by themselves, right? So whoever their role model is, right? You could start by asking them to write about their role models, and then the next day, what would your role model, what advice would they give to you, right? You can give advice like you're giving advice to a friend. Okay, I think that's a little more difficult. And normalizing experiences with the universal you. you are going through a problem. Okay, this problem is something that's difficult. You will get better. Blah blah blah. Right. So we're generalizing. We're using the universal you. So yeah, my students. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What I reckon right now is in Turkish, if I have a lot of problems, especially at the workplace, I generally ask myself, bakalım kahramanımızın başına ne gelecek? Kind of a thing. So let's see what's going to happen to our superhero right now. Kind of a question. I ask it to myself.
Okay.
And I feel as if I'm a superhero of
Right.
a story. Well, that was the reason. Now I understand why I.
Yeah. I mean, we have this thing in America, it's like, what would Jesus do? Like, if you're Christian. Have you seen that before? I mean, that before it was a meme, before it was a joke, that was how some people looked at life. They said, what would Jesus do in this situation? They would look to their heroes, their spiritual leaders, whatever brings you motivation, right? Yeah.
It works a bit differently for me.
Okay. What do you do?
I ask myself, Shebo. My name is Shebnem, but I call myself Shebo.
Okay.
For short.
Nice. So you're you're a friend to yourself right now.
Let's see what will happen to Shebo.
You're so close.
No. So this is advice to a friend, right? And you're talking you're using your nickname when you're talking to yourself. So no, that's just giving advice from a friend, from a perspective of a friend. Okay, so you're distancing.
Sometimes there are more than one people giving you advice in your life.
That's the devil, though.
One person is okay, but if it's more than one, it's good.
Okay. Then you should go to the doctors or psychologist. Okay. If you have maybe 5 voices, then
If you visit Melih one day, you will reckon that he has this second Melih and the third one. He's talking to them.
we're not gonna do these. So I have some examples. You guys can read it afterwards. I'm gonna skip this, but you can think about how rewriting your problems now is a challenge and thinking about what you learned from that experience. Okay. So the benefits creates a can-do attitude, growth mindset, right? We're talking about growth mindset, resiliency. Academically, if you do this, you're practicing cause and effect, right? You're talking about what was the problem and what was the result. What did you learn from this? So students will write about something about somebody, a loss in the family, and then talking about now they're more, they focus on their friendships more because of this thing, right? So we're talking about cause and effect. We can use this language in the class. We're practicing narrative tenses, right? They're retelling stories.
And also about distancing yourself is, I think it's at the very core of academic writing. I mean, when you write about an academic subject, you have to distance yourself and you have to see the big picture.
I think
That's the very basis of academic writing.
Right. So that was one of the benefits I said academically as well. Yeah. So students need to be able to do that to write academically, right? The third person plural, usually people, some people, right? Many people. All right. Let me go back. We're not going to do that. I'm going to pass out some papers. I want you to get into groups of 3s. Take a paper. There's 3 of them. They're different. Okay. Each person read one of them and then share what you read and think about what the next strategy is. Okay. You might have seen it. So take one each. Okay. Read it. I'll give you some time to read. And then share with your partners when you're finished about what you read and then what you think the strategy is. Go.
Read and do what? We're going to read it.
You're going to read it by yourselves first. Then you're going to share with your partners after everybody's read. And then think about what's happening, the strategy. Okay?
Are they all different?
They're all different. There's 3 of them. you don't have to, you're just going to share. So if you finish reading, then tell your partner what you read. You don't have to read them all. It'll take too long.
This is a letter to his or her. I'm not sure about his or her future self. She's written in the
saying that you've managed
She says that tells herself that should be proud of herself.
I'm going to tell you this is a male teacher, a male student. Yeah, a male student.
So girlfriend, there's a girlfriend here, but
Yeah. It could be, yeah.
your money in your pocket, you can do
okay.
And he's a tough guy. He's like a kind of a gangster guy that I one of my former students, you know.
This feels quite very.
Yeah, I love how he starts off. I can't believe I'm writing this. My teacher, Mr. Bob, made me do this. But he gets into it, you know. What would I ask you? All right. Does anybody want to share something that they talked about? Something they learned? Oh, sorry. What was the strategy? Sorry. What was the strategy they used this time? With what? Distance with? Okay. Distance with? Time. Okay. Huh? Yes.
In mine, it's not the time because she's calling out to her present self from the present, not from the future.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't she has done everything okay, right? And but
This one's 45.
she has to work hard to get this dream.
Being a nurse? No, not the nurse one. Baby. Yeah. They're both.
Managed to become a nurse, she says.
Right. So she's writing from the future then.
But at the end, you have to work regularly to have your dreams.
Mm-hmm. So she's giving advice from this future self, or the future, right? Yeah. Yeah, there's these are genuine, these are authentic student writings, okay? And no, from last year, 3 years ago. This one was from 2020, during COVID-19. And this is something my sister, she gave me advice to like do this for my students. I didn't know how to help my students. She said, why don't you have them write a letter, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And so that's what we did. And I would say that I don't like giving feedback. I don't like grading, you know. It's like I give lots of assignments. This one I read in like 30 minutes. Every one of them from 2020 just made me feel better, okay? It just gave me hope that if my students could like imagine a better future, then I should be able to do the same, okay? And yeah, it was a letter from your future self to your current self. It was kind of hard to explain to them, but the whole idea was imagine a time in the future that things were better, okay? And then give yourself some advice and just kind of imagine a better world, you know? And we'll get to it. So yeah, engage in mental time travel, okay? So this is another way of distancing yourself. Studies show that when people are going through a difficult experience, asking them to imagine how they'll feel about it 10 years from now rather than tomorrow can be another remarkably effective way of putting their experience in perspective. Doing so leads people to understand that their experiences are temporary, which provides them with hope, okay? And I think, yeah, we feel that problems are permanent, right? When we're stuck in it, when we have that inner chat, the chatter's going, we think it's never going to end. We often focus on problems and not solutions. Mental time travel, it helps you create this temporal distance so you can see the world is constantly in flux and circumstances are going to change. And that provides the benefits of that distant self-talk. So when you do this, the negative feelings go away quicker, right? So right now, so you have your writings. I want you to just think about maybe 5 or a couple years or maybe even a couple months from now, whatever the time you want to choose. I want you to write a short message to your present self, okay? And give yourself some advice, okay? That these things will change, these will get better. If there's somebody who's sick or something, maybe it's about, imagine a positive future.
Not it was solved, not in that way.
It can be.
It can be.
It can be that it was solved. You can imagine that something, yeah. Unless you want to be negative, I mean, the dark future, the dystopian future. No, don't do that. Use future tenses if you can, okay? So try to practice using I, you will be doing this, this will happen, things like that. So write a message to yourself on that letter that you've been writing or the paper. Give yourself some advice. I'll give you 2 minutes to do this. Yeah, and give advice and positive encouragement.
We're writing this from the future. Pardon, sorry.
For your problem that you're having.
Problem.
Yeah. So think about your problem that you wrote about, okay? And think of from the one that you wrote about.
It wasn't so specific.
Okay, so be specific then. Be specific to that issue, that problem that you wrote about at the beginning of this presentation.
And we are using the third person singular?
No, you're going to write to you. So you can write the way that you would write a letter. You're going to do
I
this.
started, dear Özgür.
Yeah, and write to yourself, yeah. And you're probably going to, when you're having a dialogue, you're using the you, right? So you will have this experience, this will happen. Okay? Give advice, positive encouragement.
We're just saying.
I mean, you can imagine, you can tell them what will happen, maybe. That problem with your friend, it will finish. Don't worry about it.
Some good news from the future.
Yeah, some good news. I mean, I encourage good news from the future, but, if you're...
Future is already future.
The future's already the future. No, that's not possible.
But imagine that it happened.
Yeah. Imagine that it happened, right? So your future self experienced it already. So sometimes the students write in the past tense, right?
Ulrich Beck, German sociologist, says there are 2 types of future. One, the future we can know now.
Uh-huh.
And the second one is the future, which we cannot know.
What is... Sorry, don't worry about it. Wait. What is the future that we know now? I don't understand that.
Ulrich Beck.
Well, there is a saying, it says if you're curious about your future, start creating it now.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what he
Yeah, he wants to say we think about the future in today's terms.
Okay. The near
Maybe-
future.
Maybe in the future those terms will change completely, and so we cannot actually think on the spot about the future.
Of course. It's like a blurry target. It's a moving target, We can aim and maybe hit the target. And think of a time, maybe it's a month from now, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 10 years. It's up to you. You can write it as a letter. You should write it as a letter. Whoa. Sorry. And just finish up those. All right. So if you're still writing, wonderful. Continue to write. Yeah, so my students, they wrote a letter to their present self during the pandemic and the earthquake. Okay. So this is when it started, during the pandemic, right? And then during the earthquake as well. And they explained their current problems from a distant self. They gave words of hope and encouragement. It was lovely to read, and it was, students like shared things that I didn't know anything about them, like about a sister who passed away, and it just one of those moments that I think it allows students to kind of open up a little bit, and it obviously requires trust from you, and the fact that I'm not sharing this, like I took their names off, don't worry. But yeah, most problems are temporary. This is the benefit that we want to see from this, focusing on solutions. Academically, letter writing genre, right? If we're practicing letter writing, why don't we do something like this that can help our students? Practice with future tenses if you make that a requirement, right? This will happen to you, you will happen, this will blah, blah, blah. This is one of my students from 2021. I took off her name. She wrote this letter to herself about her goals for the future of working in Portugal and India. She wrote this, 3 years ago, right? I don't want you to read it all, but she came back to it because we use Google Docs, okay? So she came back to it like 3 years later, and she read it, and she said, I like the idea of writing a letter to the future self from my current state, because when I reread it a year, 2 or 3 years later, I will know what dreams I had realized, what dreams I had not realized. So this letter can motivate me not to give up and follow my dreams. I didn't tell her to write this. I think she just found it again in her Google Drive, okay? And I just said, I agree, and also some dreams were just dreams. Choose the ones that you suit your current self. I'm glad you still keep these and read them, okay? So it's something, if they actually keep these papers, right? And I think Google Docs is a great way that they can come back to their work, right? That they have a portfolio. It's online. And if they throw away their folders and stuff like that, they still will have it, okay? Except for one student.
Wonderful way to interact with your students.
Yeah,
3 years later.
3 years later, right? And I didn't tell her to do this. This letter, I told them to fold it up and open it when the time was ready, in whatever year. That was the actual assignment, was fold this up, I give it back to them with the corrections, open it, and then see what happened, Did it come true? Did those words of encouragement help you? You can do the opposite as well, like, write to yourself from the present to the future and fold it up like a little time capsule. Okay, the last thing we're going to do, and we have time, yay. We're going to talk about expressive nature writing. I'm combining two different things. So free writing in nature, or about nature, in nature, can provide a spark of insight. Expressive writing is an effective means of gaining helpful emotional distance, and secondhand exposure to the natural world through photos and videos also restores attentional resources. So it's lovely to be in the forest. We don't all have the opportunity to, but just seeing trees in the classroom actually makes people more happy, right? Listening to the sounds of birds and things like that, it actually makes you feel connected to it. Even having a fake plant. I have a fake plant in my room just because it's easier for me, right? And all the YouTubers, they do this too. They all have a green plant. It makes you feel better. There's so much research about this. So many of us don't spend enough time in nature. Fictional writing can give insight into our worries and fears. We're going to do an activity, okay? So if you need more paper, I have more. But yeah, it says 15 to 20 minutes of expressive writing for 3 consecutive days can improve your health, right? So kind of writing, free writing, writing about some kind of story that you have, any of those things. Focusing on from the perspective of a narrator provides distance and helps you make a sense of your feelings, right? So when you write not from like the I perspective, from a narrator's perspective, it also gives you that distance as well. A nature walk group experience, this was in a study, they experienced less chatter than the other group, the control group. Okay, and nature can include secondhand exposure, which includes photos, videos, nature sounds, things like that. We're going to do an activity, okay? This is something I do for my students like every year, usually at the end of the year when they're like, feeling it. We're going to do some parts of this activity called the forest walk activity. So if you need a piece of paper or you got paper, just let me know. Okay, you're going to write what you imagine and feel based on the prompt, okay? Are you guys ready? Okay, I'm glad you guys all get writing practice today. Okay. So, we're going to start. I'm not going to play any music because I want you to think of your own forest. I'm not going to show any pictures yet. But yeah, you are walking in a forest. Describe the forest. What kinds of trees do you see? Describe the lighting. Is it dark or light? What's in your forest? And what are you feeling as you walk through the forest? Okay. Paper. So you're writing?
Yeah.
Maybe you need more paper. You are walking in a forest. Describe the forest. What kinds of trees do you see? Describe the lighting. Is it dark? Is it light? Describe the temperature, right? Also, what season is it? What's in your forest besides trees? Is there any other natural things? And what are you feeling as you walk through the forest? Oops. Sorry. Sorry. Get some great students in here. All right. So if you're writing, continue to write. But next, you see a bear in the woods. Describe the bear. Is it big or small? Okay. Is it playful or is it frightening? Okay. How close or how far away is it? What is it doing? Okay. And then, what do you do? How do you get away from it, or what do you do with it? And describe your feelings as you see this bear. I gotta add more. Okay. So you're walking through a forest. You described your forest. Next, you see a bear in the forest, in the woods. Describe the bear. Is it big or small, playful or frightening? How close or far away is it? What is it doing? And what are you doing? Describe your feelings as you see this bear. Okay, last part. After you leave the bear. Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry.
Okay.
I got some. Okay, good. All right. Did you need a photo? Did you? Okay. After you leave the bear, you continue walking. Okay. And you come to a large opening in the forest where a dwelling is located. And the word dwelling can mean anything, right? It could mean a shelter. It could be something natural. It could be something made by man. It's dwelling. It's a place with a cover of some kind of thing, right? How big is it? What does it look like? What is it made of? Okay. How does it make you feel? And do you approach it, this dwelling? And if you do you go inside? Okay. Describe the situation and your feelings with as much detail as possible. And that's the end of that, so you can finish writing. Okay. Tell me later. One more minute. Get into this. Did I put the music? All right, so take a little more time to finish your thoughts and your ideas and your story. And we're going to check the meaning of this. So this is what they call a kokology. Kokoro means heart in Japanese. It's a book that you can like read these different things, do these fictional stories, and then it tells you a meaning about something, about your attitude. So yeah, this is research for yourself. Okay, so tell me if it's.
I know that this storytelling or guided imagery activity is a kind of a therapy method, and I generally use it in my classrooms as well. So trees, forests, the
Right.
sunlight, the house, the dwelling, the bear, they all symbolize.
Okay, so don't give it away. Is everybody ready? Is everybody ready? Okay, if you're still writing, you know, I think you're written enough to not put some. Maybe later. I thought I had nature sounds. No, whatever. Oh, there it is. Here we go. Okay, so the forest represents how you currently feel about your life. It indicates your attitude and feelings at the current time, just right now, right? Does your forest have plenty of light coming through the trees, or is it dark and depressing? You know, is it winter? Is it spring? Is it, you know? So, you know, grain of salt, right? If it doesn't match, it's okay. Okay, the bear represents the current problems in your life and how you react to them. Okay, if you had a little baby bear, no problems, right? Were the bear or bears big or small? Were they far away and manageable, or close and threatening, right? Did you run away from your problem, or your bear? You know, or did you play with your bear, right? Did you confront it? Did you? Okay, so think about that. Does it match your current, you know, mood about your problems? And the last thing is the dwelling. It represents your goal in life, your goals, and your approach to them. So the dwelling represents, what does your dwelling place look like? Is it something big? Is it like a mansion? Yeah. Is it something small, scary looking? Okay. Do you go inside it, you know? Or did you just stay outside because you were scared or something like that? Did you enter the dwelling? Okay. So yeah, did that kind of match your outlook? Okay. Right? So yeah, like Sinam said, fictional writing can kind of have this ability to unlock these psychological things that we're experiencing at the moment. Also, this is just a fun fictional writing activity, right? Fun and creative, does not require extra effort to reduce chatter by doing this, sitting in nature, writing about the forest. Academically, narrative writing, right? We get to practice our narrative tenses. Our students have such issues with writing in the past tenses, okay? And focus on article usage. So this is, when I talk about articles, I usually start this activity. And I say, a bear, a house, the house, right? And when they're doing this narrative writing, this is when you're going to start to see how they use articles, okay? And if you want to really test your students' article use, I think fictional writing, storytelling, really helps them to kind of start learning these things for article uses, right? Vivaldi's Four Seasons? Get them in this feeling? Okay. So yeah, using music as a way, you know, listening to music and how do you feel, right? Those kind of things that we can use. But yeah, I think the benefit of nature is kind of real. I would love to find some research about music and that we should be writing with music as well. Okay. This is feedback from my student from last semester online. We did this online. I asked them what their favorite activity was. The student said it was definitely the forest walk assignment. I can talk about this assignment again and again because it was your first assignment that taught me to build confidence in my writing skills. Since I wrote the assignment without knowing that it has a psychological meaning at the end, I got a lot of insight into my own psychology when I finished my assignment. I also had a lot of fun doing the fantasy world design and plot twist. Definitely the most fun assignment I've ever done. And the student did a really good job with this writing. You know, this is from their Google Forms. I had some really good students. I didn't know they could write until I let them write, you know? So I had 3 students that talked about being novelists. And, you know, I mentioned that student wrote, you know, on her Google Forms, she never lost it. Unfortunately, last night, one of my students wrote to me. She lost her assignment. This is kind of small, so. Hello, I'm your former student, blah, 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 from preparatory year. Last year, I was your student when classes were held remotely due to the earthquake. In one of our lessons, you gave us an assignment called Forest Walk and asked us to write a short story with instructions. I hope that you still remember that article I wrote. I attributed a lot of sentimental meaning to that article, both because of your appreciation and encouragement of my writing and from the satisfaction I got from the article. Unfortunately, due to a few problems on my computer, I completely lost the file of my article. Even though I tried to access the file via Google Classroom, I could not access any documents related to the article. If you still have the file or access to it, is it possible you can send it to me? I don't. She deleted something. Google Drive disappeared. I'm sorry to bother you about such a small matter. Even though I've been nervous to write to you about this for 3 months, I thought it would be the best solution to overcome my embarrassment, her chatter, and contact you since I realized that I wanted to add writing to my life. And you were the person who made me realize this. I got this last night at 12:30 at night. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. I looked through my backups. I looked through all of my storage. I couldn't find it. So I don't know. I'm going to ask her to meet me. We'll do it together again. You know. But, you know, I asked her, oh, sorry, I'm looking forward to any help you might not be able to provide me. This was just last night this happened. Okay?
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's just like a coincidence that the student started asking me about this. And, you know, I was like amazed by her writing. I said, where did you learn how to write like this? She's an avid reader.
And after this email, you decided to do this activity class?
No.
No. Just by chance.
I mean, there's just been like more students coming back and saying that these kind of things, you know, I didn't realize that this kind of writing improved their writing confidence, their writing skill, you know, and they were actually having, and, you know, and they were better essay writers after that, right? Because they found like a purpose for writing, you know, to talk about their life. And these things aren't disconnected, you know, fictional writing, creative writing, expressive writing, all of these things will help our students. And that's what I saw in this writing process, and this is why I'm sharing this with you.
Will you be able to share it with us?
Yeah, and I'll share all the activities and yeah.
The order.
The forest walk one actually has like 2 more things, a key and a bottle, a water vessel thing. And
River and the bridge.
no, this one's different. But there's more of them, so if you have different scenarios and different cocoologies, different psychological meanings, please share. Okay, so my recommendations, now you guys put on your teacher hats. I recommend introducing short writing prompts with Padlet, something you can do in the morning, you know, like have them write about challenges, have them write about some issue, you know, have them write in the third person about that issue, you know, not use their name maybe, he, she. Implement student journals. I'm doing this. I know it takes a lot of work, but, you know, have them write about just their day and things like that. I don't make it mandatory. Obviously, we can't give assignment scores, right? I give a completion score. I just say 2 out of 2, wonderful, right? I like using Google Classroom or Google Docs for homework just because it gives me that ability to check, and I like giving feedback on computer. And I would say provide feedback as a dialogue instead of doing all the corrective feedback. Just answer what's happening. Well, that's a great story, you know, tell me more. And what I usually do is I address just common patterns of errors in the class. So I don't mark everything. I just say, I saw a lot of this common issue. Let's go over this as a little mini lesson. And what I find is that this is where students make all their mistakes, right? You give them that chance, you know, and they're not like they can't AI this one, okay? They really can't, right? And nor would they want to, because it's not for a score. This is, the formative assessments that I think writing definitely needs. It makes our writing jobs really difficult to have to do this, but this is where I see the growth. And any questions, comments?
I
And I'm finished.
feel that we need to really seriously, I'm proposing it. We need to involve actually this kind of reflective practice exercises to help students regulate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But when I am like this term, I'm teaching integrated skills. Oh my gosh, I can't integrate myself into the program. I literally cannot integrate the teacher into because we have this and this and this and this. This is why I hate reading. It's just like, it's so suffocating that I really can't get myself into it. And I need this kind of like time slots in the program where I can really help them see. Today, I assigned like around 30-35 minutes only about AI use, how they can effectively use in their studies and so on. But you know what happened? Like I had to like complete tons of things in the program, and I was like, oh dear.
What have I done?
What have I done? And I know what I'm doing is
These are the
working,
references.
but it's something. So maybe that 25 hours, 1 hour is only weekly regulation hours, like independence. I don't know. Just we can do relax, enjoy, just see how to regulate the strategies to go with this. You know, like rather than dumping them with lots of things in the class. This is how I see the whole story.
I mean, I mainly do these as homeworks. I don't actually a lot of it is like do this for your journal writing. Thank you for coming. Don't worry, just go. Oh wait.
We need to selfie.
I'll try it. Don't worry. All right, you're all in it. All right, thank you very much. You were free to go.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I don't know.
Good. Thank you.
I'm sure you also agree with me. Like, really, where does this curriculum
Okay.
go?
Thank you for coming.
They don't, we know our school, we keep talking about the problems. We all know that we're stressed with the program, so tell me about the team. Find someone who can work in the team properly, because already the team has got a lot of workload, class hours, and they can't even do the things, as the simple things, simple changes in the program.
Yeah.
So we need a great team, we need a great management. I'm not in the management team, I'm not a decision maker, I don't have the right to change anything. I am with you, but
I gotta change my example.
We can't change, because we don't have any cover, we don't have any foreign language teachers to come.
Thank you.
We're only 70, 80 in the teaching team. The unit members, they have a workload as well. They don't have any motivational drive.
No,
Who's going
that's
to do
yours.
that?
I just.
So let's talk about that.
That's a small thing. College or that coursework is kind of approach or method.
It's a book. It's from a Japanese book. Yeah. Yeah. But that's the idea. Kokoro means heart in Japanese. Yeah, and then kokoology or whatever they call it is, I don't know, this Japanese guy wrote these stories, you answer them, kind of like, right, or describe the ocean. What is the ocean like, for you?
So let's not talk, but let's just do something together.
I mean, my suggestion is to not wait for administration. I mean, last week I had Unit 1 for 2 weeks, and so I had extra time. I just found time in my own schedule. But I usually like to give these as homeworks, and I don't expect all my students to do it. I actually don't want them to, because it's hard to grade, right? I want the students that want to do this to do it, And if they don't all do it, it's fine. I can't give them an assignment point. We don't have scores for that, right? When I was doing, ELT, I had my own, these were actually for points. Like if they didn't do these assignments, then they would lose points, right? We can't do that. I think we can motivate our students. And I want to say that the students in my classes, they find that these are actually beneficial to them. And you create the benefit. A lot of the benefit comes from your own feedback, right? So if you just give an assignment and you're not putting that effort into it, your students know they're not going to do the assignment, right? But when you use these in the classroom, I use them as warm-ups. You can use them as prompts on Padlet to just, but every day there's something that they're going to be thinking about. It could be related to the unit, or it could be related to something in the world, like just talking about Gaza or something like that, right? Think about ways that yesterday was, what are your comfort foods? And what's the food that makes you feel like at home and stuff like that? And you can ask them, the question that really works is, what's something that you do to take care of yourself? When you need to relax, what's something that you do? So kind of getting them in short writing just to think about those things, And Padlet's great because they get to see each other's examples and things like that. They start to see the grammar. Padlet, you can edit, so you can fix things and say, okay, let's fix some stuff, right? I find that working it kind of into your teaching practice is a better solution than trying to make a big block for it.
We definitely do that. I totally agree. Giving assigning is already something we already do. But what I'm saying is that structurally, institutionally, adopting this perspective and put it in a curriculum. Otherwise, I'm sure all the participants here do something for the students, like some innovative techniques or methodologies.
But I'm a fan of.
That's why this group of people is
right.
Exactly.
And I'm a fan of teacher autonomy as well. So if you have a different way of doing things, I would love for you guys to share. I just feel like there's not enough teaching practice sharing. So if you have prompts that work very well,
Last week we just did some painting, and then the story writing thing I practiced in the next day.
Yeah.
Thursday. And it worked. It worked very well. And they enjoyed every minute of it.
Right. And I would just say, share these activities with any of your, office mates, and if you need me to send some resources, I will send something so that you can actually have the prompts. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'll send something.
Can you send the slides as well?
I'll send something. It'll look like the slides.
We shall actually put it on Egeders. By the way, let's introduce this as well. So finally, we have our CPDU has Egeders platform set only for us, for the teachers. So we can upload the video,
Whatever the material.
Okay.
or the materials, or if you have any follow-up suggestions or resources, so we can put it over there.
Not only
I-
not on Bulut anymore, on Egeders.
Not again, on Egeders, our platform. There's a class, like where we all are together, so we can just see. At least we can go back and see the presentations.
And I would just say word of mouth, If something works in your classroom, share it, because share it. Yeah. But share it wide, because obviously you guys are the fire starters, okay? So go start some fires. Firefighters, fire starters, firefighters.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We had a lot of fun.
Awesome.